So the next one is from Dave T. I know you always say that box office projections will fluctuate, but now we're in the opening week of Captain Marvel, and I just read that they're now saying the movie will make around 350 million worldwide in just its first weekend. If true, what does this do to all those Captain Marvel will flop theories that have been out there?
Well, I think there's a couple things to look at and keep in mind here. The first thing, and like I've seen these headlines too, I've been talking about these headlines, but you do have to keep in mind, let's throw a couple of asterisks up here. Number one, remember, tracking is not an exact science. We've had Variety a few weeks ago say that it was going to open at 100 million, while Box Office Pro was saying it was going to open at 160 million, which I thought that was just ludicrous. And Variety said 100. Now Variety has since adjusted. Now they're saying 115 to 125. And now, anyway, so keep in mind when we're talking about these types of reports. Now, Deadline isn't some, little blog being done as a hobby. This is Deadline, one of the major trades in Hollywood. So, but still, it's a projection. And I think you need to keep that in mind. That projection, and these projections usually come within 90% accuracy, so they're usually pretty reliable. But remember, they're still just projections until the actual numbers come out. So with that being said, let's just go by what the report is saying for a second. If this movie, because we talked the other day, Rob, about how they're now saying that in China alone, it's going to open to around $90 to $95 million just in China alone. They're projecting right now in North America, it's going to have like 115 to 125 million dollar opening. I'm still sticking with 90 to 100. I'm sticking with 90 to 100. But right there, you've got 200 million just out of two countries. If this movie can actually open to say 350 million worldwide on its initial weekend drop, theoretically speaking, Rob, that means by the end of its first week, it'll be over $400 million. You're talking about a movie that will now have cleared the break-even point in just its first week. What does that do to some of those theories that were floating around out there that Captain Marvel is going to flop? It's going to be the first flop that Marvel has and all this kind of stuff. Well, it destroys those. But also keep in mind that it's not like there's this perception out there that everybody out there who has been against the Captain Marvel movie has been saying the movie will flop. Well, that's not true. I think there are a lot of people out there who have been against the Captain Marvel movie who know full well it's going to not flop. It's going to be profitable. It's going to make money. So I think there's a lot of people out there that think that. But the other thing here, Rob, is we also got to keep in mind this. There is a difference between flopping and being disappointing. So, for example, like Justice League, it made over $650 million. It more than broke even with all the extra expense they had to put into it for reshooting most of the movie. At $650 million, it's still more than broke even, and it was profitable. It's no flop. Some people like to call Justice League a flop. It wasn't a flop. It at least broke even and made actually a little bit of money. But you can fairly say that, it's still disappointing. Now, so I believe there's a window of space here, Rob, that there's where Captain Marvel becomes profitable and where it becomes good result. And I think there's a little bit of gray area in there where it could still be disappointing. I think if Captain Marvel ends up making $410 million worldwide, I think you consider that disappointing. I think if it makes $420 million worldwide, I think that's disappointing. Now, as soon as it hits 500 million or more, now you're getting into the range that I always said I thought Captain Marvel was going to make. I think Captain Marvel is going to end up making between $600 and $700 million. Other people like yourself think much, much higher than that, possibly in the $1 billion range. But I think if it just crawls over the breaking even mark, it could still be considered a disappointment at the box office. To me, once it crosses 500 million, now you're starting to get into numbers like once it hits like 515, 520, 530, now you're talking about a movie that makes at least $100 million in profit. Now you can't talk in terms of disappointment anymore. But anyway, Rob, you're looking at these numbers. What do you think of the possibilities, though, that Captain Marvel could potentially end up being a money loser, could potentially make money but still be considered disappointing, and where it actually becomes, this is a good result? Where do you see those numbers falling?
Look, I'll flat out say it. The only people that have been saying this movie is going to be a disappointment are dudes. And what I've been saying since the very beginning is that you have a whole audience of moms and their daughters who are excited about going to see this movie, that are not on geek websites, that are not bitching on the internet, that are not complaining about things, that are going to go to this movie and they're primed to enjoy it because of that image that's between us right now. There is a massive audience that is going to make this movie not only successful, but very successful. And look, I've been saying it's going to make, if you look at these intro movies, $650 million is a pretty great place to start. I mean,
yeah, that's right around where Ant-Man and Doctor Strange have come in. That seems to be the pattern for these.
That's going to be that's the beginning of this movie. And I think worldwide we're going to be looking at anywhere from between 650 to $1 billion. And I think it's going to be because it's tapping into an audience that doesn't normally turn out for these movies the first weekend, and that is the mother-daughter audience. You know, the women who are seeing, like they turned out for Wonder Woman, are seeing a character like Captain Marvel that's really, really important. The same way that Black Panther was important to another audience of people that wasn't always represented in these films. And I think that is not to be denied. And it's going to be the idea that this movie is going to flop. What is that based upon? Certainly not the Marvel Cinematic Universe numbers. It's based upon butthurt dudes on the internet complaining. That's it. There's no other reason, you know, and it's ridiculous. I don't get it. I can't wait to see this movie. I hope it's hugely successful, because if it is, that's better for all movies.
Yeah.
You know, it's better for the more opportunities of stories that we can get. I want to see a She-Hulk movie. You know, I want to see the Women of the X-Men movie. I want to see an all-female Avengers movie. Imagine how people are going to scream and yell about that. But who doesn't want to see it? I do. I want this movie to be successful, damn it.
Well,
everybody should go twice.
I think it's going to be successful. I'm not still to this day, I'm not as optimistic as you. I still think it's going to come in that 600 to $700 million range. But I hope you're right. I hope you're right. I hope it makes 900 million, $1 billion. I hope it does. But I'm going to be very happy with it and satisfied if it comes in between. Again, in those introductory movies that the MCU has had, the pattern as of late has been 600 to 700 million. And
I think there's also a bit of the audience, John, that you are forgetting about entirely. Cat lovers.
Oh, God.
Cat lovers are going to turn out. They're going to turn out in droves to see this movie.
Hell yeah.
Turning out in droves. I'm one of them. So's Ashley.
Cats.
I'll be there. I'll be there with my cat. I'll bring her into the theater. No one will know.
But I'm telling you, poster.
Goose the cat, as painful as it is for me to say, Goose the cat is a highlight in this film. That's all. I'm not going to give anything away. I'm just saying Goose the cat is a highlight in the film.
You're warming up to it, see?
This might be the first $150 million cute cat video ever made.
Possibly. That's a good way of putting it.